Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, you may have noticed from the thumbnail for this video that this is another in my sporadic series that I call Deep Deck Dive, my deck dive, yeah? Which means I dive into a deck and I work with it for at least a month. And then I come back and I report what I've felt about the deck and what I've discovered about the deck, yeah? So, I've got this deck that I have worked with for quite a while, and more than a month actually, and it is called the Fifth Tarot. It's called the Fifth Tarot, yeah? It was created by, I need to look at the name, Martien and Teressena Bakens. And I'm probably butchering their name, and I'm very sorry for my poor pronunciation. But this is a very interesting deck. It's an intriguing deck. It's a deep deck, I think. The deck was originally published back in 2008. The copy I have was, well, it's called the third edition, but no, the third printing, but a second edition. So what I believe happened is they printed it once, they printed it again, and then they did some tinkering with it, and they printed it a third time through a Kickstarter. Yeah, so I got mine through a Kickstarter. The original publication was again in 2008, but mine was delivered to me at the beginning of 2004. So I've had it for quite a while. And it took me a while to get up the gumption to actually dive into this deck. But I'm glad I waited, because I think I've matured a little. We're always maturing, I hope, in Tarot, aren't we? Right? So I've matured, I think, enough to be able to handle this deck. It's self-published, and I think it's wonderful. And I'd like to show you why I think this is wonderful. So, let me do this. I will turn the camera down, and we will look at the cards, we'll look at the book, we'll look at the whole package all together. Are you all ready, friends? Here we go. Here is this version of my deck dive. Friends, thank you for joining me on this dive into what I think is a phenomenal deck, an expansive deck, a deep deck. And so we're doing a deep dive, right? Now, when we think about packaging for our decks, this one had very, very rudimentary packing, but over time I've discovered that I'm very happy, because this deck, if it came with a tuck box, I got rid of it. I don't think there was a tuck box. I think it was just shrink wrapped and then sent with this bag and the book. And when you buy the deck, all of these will come together, yeah? And let me tell you about this bag. This bag, I think, is wonderful. It's that velveteen material, but different from some of the bags that I've received with decks, this one has been very durable. Yeah, I have not been gentle. I've not been very careful with this bag, and it has stood up very, very well. The drawstrings, yeah? Some of the decks that I have, the drawstrings will come undone very easily. So far, these have been very wonderful. The inside of the bag is not lined, but really, it doesn't need to be lined, if you ask me. This is a very well done container for our decks. And I love that the symbol that is on the backs of the cards is also here on the deck, on the bag, I mean. So we have no trouble distinguishing which tarot deck is in this bag, right? It's a lovely bag. I love it. The book came separately. I mean, not separately, but was not packaged with the deck. It was just there in the box, which is fine. When we think about design of the shipment, it's not all that interesting. But really, how many of us are so attached to the design of the containers that the deck and book come in that we will not interact with or use a deck if it doesn't have a nice clamshell box or a good magnetic clasp, right? As long as the container is durable, it works for me. And this has been very durable. I love that. The guidebook. Let me put the deck aside and let's talk about the guidebook. It's an excellent guidebook. As far as the manufacture of the guidebook, if I have any criticism about this set at all, it is the binding on the guidebook. The cardstock for the cover and the paper on the inside are all wonderful. However, the binding is not. And why do I say that? I say that because, if you can see here, the binding has started to come apart. Now, like I said, I was not very careful with this deck or the book. I was shoving it in and out of my backpack as I was traveling, and so it got dinged up a little bit. Now, if you use this deck at home and you leave the book on your reading table or put it on your shelf or in your bookcase, I'm sure this would be no problem. The binding itself is good enough, I think, for normal use. But for someone like me who likes to shove things into and pull things out of backpacks because that's how I live my life, the binding of the side binding to the cover is not as strong as I would like. However, that aside, this is a phenomenal book. The contents of the book are great. Let me go in. The paper is glossy. Let me check. Here's the title of the book, right? The Fifth Tarot, Alchemy of the Five Elements, which is why I keep wanting to call it the Fifth Element Tarot, but it's not the name. The names of the authors are here. Martien and Teressena Bakens. Teressena Bakens was the illustrator for the cards. We have a dedication here. We dedicate the Fifth Tarot to all seekers of truth, to all who search to understand the mysteries of the sacred, to all who choose the path of peace. May the Fifth Tarot offer insights along the way and assist you on your soul journey. That's exactly what this deck seems to be for me. Yeah, this is a soul journey exploration kind of deck. You know how we say there are decks for shadow work? To me, this is a deck for soul work. Does that make sense? I hope it will. And maybe as we talk about the deck a little bit more, it will make more sense to you. Now we have table of contents. Let me make sure that you're not getting much glare here. The wonderful thing about this deck is the deck itself is very, very matte, and you don't have to really worry about lighting for your table. It does not reflect, which is just wonderful. We'll get to that in just a bit. But the book is on glossy paper. Let's see if we can get to the section where, not a history of the Tarot, introduction to the Fifth Tarot. Let's see if we can find the background story is not exactly correct, but the reason that these authors decided to make this tarot. Yeah? Let's start here. Yeah? The new frequencies and cosmic energies of this great shift, the shift of centuries, the shift of time, yeah, have ushered in new possibilities for higher vibrational gifts and abilities. The old paradigms that no longer support the emerging global consciousness are breaking up. The fifth tarot addresses the new cosmic energies and awakens one to the new story being written in the hearts and minds of humanity. People are waking up to a new remembrance of our divine connection to the spiritual forces of the universe at work in our lives. In keeping with the new energies of the times, the fifth tarot reframes some of the traditional patriarchal images depicting the major arcana cards. The archetypal images of the fifth tarot's major arcana take on slightly different meanings that are more aligned with the divine feminine and the divine masculine and sacred union, which is one thing I love. You know how some decks, and I fully understand and agree with the reasoning, because of the power and the persistence of the patriarchy, in order to react to and respond to that, some decks have shifted almost completely into the divine feminine, which is fine. Like I said, I'm not complaining. I understand and I agree with the principle. However, more than that, I prefer even more having a deck that is balanced. So we get a very strong, powerful divine feminine and a very strong, powerful divine masculine with the aim and the goal of sacred union. And that's what this deck really is to me. Yeah? Now, why is it the fifth tarot? Yeah, it's the fifth tarot because it incorporates 5 elements. Let me see if we can find that here. The fifth also here. Much of the imagery was inspired through dreams and meditations. Meditating upon the images assists in accessing our divine blueprint. Each card has its own frequency and, when combined with a spread with other cards, creates a powerful energetic vibration to help us access our inner wisdom and the universal spiritual truths of the cosmos. Wonderful. A fifth also refers to a tonal aspect in music. The numerical ratio created by the combination of notes of C and G forms a fifth, creating one of the most harmonious of musical chords. A fifth is often used for healing in sound therapy because of vibrational qualities. For this reason, the fifth tarot carries with it a beautiful resonance incorporated into the energies of its name. All wonderful meanings, right? All wonderful attributions and significances. The fifth tarot makes a significant contribution to the world of tarot by incorporating a fifth suit, which represents the element Aether. Right? Traditional decks have 4 suits corresponding to the elements of fire, water, and air and earth, but without Aether, there is no life, no prana. One might even say no plasma. Similar to the Bible, where books were removed during the various councils in history, the fifth suit is like these lost books. Okay, now, I don't entirely agree with this assessment. Why? Personally, and I know other people who believe this as well, many of us believe or see the tarot as having the 5 elements already present. Yeah? The wands are fire. The cups are water. Why am I having trouble? The pentacles or the coins are earth, and the swords are air. In most systems. Yeah, so some systems we know switch the elements around a little bit, but still, we have those 4 elements. The 5th element is the major arcana for most of us. Or at least many of us. Or at least me. Yeah? However, having the 5th element also in the minor arcana, I think, is beneficial for a particular kind of deck, which this deck is. Let me skip here. The significance of the 5 elements is evidenced in many symbols of sacred geometry. Here, for example, one such illustration is the 5 Platonic solids. These shapes were considered by ancient mathematicians and alchemists like Pythagoras to be, what are they? the pinnacle of sacred geometry and esoteric knowledge. Right? So, right, it's fleshing out the minor arcana to include the fifth element. However, like I said, I don't completely agree that the tarot, without this fifth suit, is missing a fifth element, because we have the major arcana. But including it in the minor arcana, I think, is excellent. And there are other decks that have done that. For example, I have another deck called and I will put the title here because it starts with a V and the name has slipped my mind temporarily. An excellent deck, also containing a suit of spirit or a suit of ether. So this is not the only deck that has done that, but this is an excellent deck. So when we look at the guidebook further, we have an explanation of what the cards are and the symbols that are on the cards. For example, here we can see for the major arcana, we have a number reference for the card. We have a star symbol. Yeah, we have a planetary or astrological sign. We have a Mayan glyph from Mayan culture. We have a sacred symbol of the MU, which is peculiar to this deck. And then we have the card title. We have a colored border around the image inside the white border. Yeah, and these colors are indicative of earth, green being earth, yellow being air, red being fire, blue being water, and purple being ether. So the individual suits will have these colored inner borders, which helps when you are laying out a spread quickly and you want to identify elements quickly. It helps. But also, the major arcana are associated with elements as well. So that's interesting, right? So we will begin with, for example, a card from the major arcana. You have a black and white image of the card, large enough to see most of the symbols, most of the image clearly. We have a nice description of each of the cards. We have now the description is long, and that's good. It's helpful. It's beneficial. It describes the card, which I like. It describes the art. It describes the purposes. And then we have a divinatory meaning. And then we have applications for the card. So let's quickly read through the Fool card, yeah? Here we have what? On the Kabbalah tree of life, the Fool walks the path from Kether to Malkuth, or the place from where we came to the place where we live the experience. Yeah? He walks in a state of innocence and joy as he sets out on the journey through the rest of the Tarot. Now, connecting Kether to Malkut, let's see, is there a tree of life? There is not a tree of life here. If you think of the tree of life, yeah, there are 10 sephirah, yeah, and they're arranged in this order: 1, 2, 3. There's a missing fourth here, but so we put 4 here, 4, 5, 6 with Tippereth here, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 is Malkut. Number 1 is Kether. So this book sees the Fool traveling from 1 down to 10. However, most people do not put the Fool on the tree of life as that whole path. Right? But this book does, and that's okay. Now, okay, let's get to that in just a moment. Let's continue. He will walk the same path again, returning to his place, though he does not know this at the moment. Here lies the dichotomy of the Fool on the Kabbalistic path. Upon his journey into the manifest, the Fool is unaware of what lies ahead, unaware even that he is in fact on a quest. Yet, at the same time, he is making manifest the divine plan in his world. The Fool is wide open to all possibilities and opportunities. Now, remember, this card is focusing the Fool on a masculine image, right? He represents the promise of a bright future. The key the Fool holds is that of innocence and the unabashed joy of walking with untainted freshness and playful enthusiasm for the simple pleasures in the world around him. For the Fool, life is uncomplicated. He lives in the moment, dancing through, now you see the Fool dancing there, dancing through life, open to whatever comes his way. Through the innocence of the Fool, we return to Kether, the place from whence we came, enjoying the journey itself with great zest and joy. In the image, the Fool is depicted as a child. The child appears to be androgynous, could be either a boy or a girl. Now we've moved past the he-ing of the card to an androgynous concept. The child thus represents the perfect state with which we come into and go out of this life. With eyes wide open, the barefoot child, remember we had a barefoot child here, right? Dances with the tambourine. The tambourine itself, in the shape of a zero, reinforces the idea of, coming full circle on the journey through life. The ribbons streaming from the tambourine symbolize freedom and movement. Now, in the background, we see a path which leads nowhere specific, yet has the potential of leading everywhere. The path crosses a hilly countryside, indicating the many ups and downs we may encounter along the way. So I don't think I need to read more, but you see how the text really does describe the image on the card and the elements that the author was focusing on. Yeah? So this is a very well written and very useful book, I believe. Now, when we get to the divinatory meaning, what do we get? When the Fool card has shown up in your reading, you are being asked to follow your intuition. Now is not the time for logic or rationalization of your choices and actions. Let go of preconceived ideas and expectations. With innocence and joy, follow your heart's desire. It will be a time of new beginnings. Are there areas in your life that need simplifying? What do you need to let go of that is blocking your joyful expression? You are being asked by the Fool to joyfully embrace the curves life throws you. The innate wisdom of the Fool recognizes that it is all part of the dance on life's journey. The universal truth the Fool shares with you is that you are the color and light of the rainbow when you choose to return to a state of wonder and innocence. Lovely meaning, packed with ideas, asking questions, asking you to question your experience or the seeker's experience, right? If you're reading for yourself. If you're reading for a seeker, otherwise known as a querent, for that person. And applications. What kind of applications do we get for each card? To help bring forth the energy of the Fool, remember what gave you a pleasure as a child. Was it coloring, swinging, flying a kite, skipping stones, or dancing? Whatever it was, let go of the notion that adults don't do these things and have fun. Yeah? Dance, sing, or draw simply for the experience. Let go of any judgments of what is good. Allow yourself to simply be happy in the joyful expression that flows from you. Use essential oils. Now, essential oils are also pointed out throughout this deck. Use essential oils of sweet orange or tangerine for the Fool blend to bring out the inner child. The Fool blend, with the lightness of orange, the sweetness of vanilla, and the exuberance of myrtle, is great for dancing your life. Now, frankly, the site that sells this deck also sells essential oil blends for the major arcana, which is a wonderful service. I fully endorse that. However, you can do it yourself if you want to. Just saying. Okay? So you can buy the blends from them, or you can get your own essential oils when you think you want support for a particular stage of your life. So it's wonderful that they don't hold secret the contents of their blends, right? They won't say, we have a blend, we won't tell you what's in the blend, so buy it from us. They give you the information so that you can use it on your own as you will. And I think that is highly admirable, very admirable. So that's basically what an entry for the major arcana looks like. And when we get to the minor arcana, for example, here is the 6 of fire, right? We have, again, a very long, detailed description of the card. And we have a good divinatory meaning. And we have applications. Yeah? This one doesn't exactly point towards essential oils. I don't think essential oils are in the minor arcana. The essential oil indications were in the major arcana. So, book, very, very good. We have some spreads at the end, which I've found to be very useful. Let's see. Let's get back to the end. Introduction to Tarot reading, which is good if you're new to Tarot. Yes? So here are some spreads that I have used, and I actually found them very helpful. Yeah, Moon, Earth, Sun spread, very much like a standard 3-card draw. They, instead of going 1, 2, 3, they suggest 1, 2, 3. I don't think that's necessary, but follow their plan if you like. Card 2 is the Moon, card 1 is the Earth, card 3 is the Sun. So you can lay a 3-card spread to find the energies of what is the moon energy for me? What is the earth energy for me? What is the solar energy for me? Right? The lunar, the earthly, the solar. But you can also do past, present, future, feminine, masculine union, subconscious, superconscious, conscious. And I've used all of these spreads and I found them helpful. The spread that I found even more helpful, and perhaps the most helpful, was this 5th spread, which gives us the 5 elements, plus the major arcana. Now, the book suggests that you sort the cards and group them according to the major arcana cards and each suit, including the court cards and specific to each suit. So that means it's saying to separate all the cards into major arcana, feathers for air, lotus for ether, stones for earth, shells for water, fire for fire, right? And then shuffle those separate sections and then draw your cards for each of these places. I did not do that. Let me tell you what I did, and I found it extremely, extremely easy. It didn't make me have to mess up my deck, and sometimes you want to separate the deck out and maybe what do we call that? It's a way to cleanse your decks, reorganizing it and starting to shuffle it again from the beginning. Completely on board with that. But I want to use this spread more than I want to separate my cards back into suits, right? So what I did was this. I did my normal shuffle. I think of the question of... Now, the question for this spread is for assessing a specific situation or for assessing your place in the universe right now. And so what I used this spread for was, how am I doing now? Where am I in my life now? So I would think of that question and I would shuffle my cards, I would cut the cards, and then I would start looking. I would go card by card, and the first major arcana card, card number 1 that came up, I would put here in the center. And then I would keep going, and the next fire card that came up, I would put here. And then the next stones card, I would put there. Then I keep going card by card until I found a feathers card and put it there. And then I keep going until I found a shells card. And then I keep going until I found a lotus card. Now, I never had to go to the very end of the deck to find each of these, but if that were the case, what I would do is then I would go back to the beginning of the deck and start looking for maybe the lotus card that was left out. Do you understand? I think that's easy to understand, and that worked for me wonderfully several times. I really do like this spread. I like this spread for this deck in particular. Okay, so then there's this spread, which has 10 cards. And I'll just tell you that with my life, the way it has been in the last couple of months, while I've been using this deck, I haven't had the concentration to be able to do this large of a spread. I might end up trying it sometime later, but this is a lot of information, especially for this deck. Now, I might want to try this spread for a Smith-Waite deck, or maybe even a Thoth deck, something that I've already got pretty squarely in my mind, right? This deck, I still need to use the guidebook because it really is, to me, a very different system. Now, I know many of you are saying, well, just look at the cards, see the image, get the information, and I understand. I totally understand that, and I can do that, but the guidebook is so rich and deep with information that I really am using this deck to be able to draw out that information in particular. Now, what is this spread about? Yeah, this spread is for more expansive, in-depth looks into a query, into a question. Yeah, it's 2 pentagrams, which combined are giving us kind of a lemniscate pattern, if you think of it that way. And as above, so below idea is also contained in this spread. So the first card is present, the second card is your root. I don't know if you can see this whole spread on camera, but first, second, yeah. The third card is the recent past, the fourth card is assistance, the fifth card is possible outcomes, the sixth card is the near future. Yeah, now we've gone up to here for the sixth card. Now the seventh card is an inner view, the eighth card is an outer view, the ninth card is freedom, and then the 10th card is illumination. And illumination and the present are linked, right? Because illumination can only happen in the eternal now. So this is a very deep spread. And I love it, but I have not used it yet. So that is the guidebook. It's, again, a lovely guidebook. And we have appendices with the symbols back here, sacred symbols of the MU with naming them. Yeah, not much explanation of them, but naming them. The Mayan glyphs, they give you names. They give you the meanings here for the Mayan glyphs. Yeah, they don't really give us the meanings for the Mu sacred symbols, but we can kind of get it for creation, builder, offering, Tao, right? We get the star symbols that are being used, which are not the astrological symbols, but for this deck it's called a star symbol, which is the Fool for innocence and truth. The Magician, the downward pointing triangle with an extra line, is for light, sound, vibration. Yeah, the universe has this sign, which kind of looks like a bizarre Saturn sign with a line removed, but this is for future sight. This is added information for each card, which is wonderful. But again, I'm not so much into having to memorize all those symbols yet. So that's why I like to refer to this book when I use this deck. The suit attributes, elements, energy. Fire is creative, spiritual, the senses of smell, the sacral chakra. Do you know where that is? That's the very, very bottom, right? Attribute is masculine. Aspect is movement. Quality is creative passion. Yeah, this really is a deep deck. Now, when we come to astrological associations, let's look at the minor arcana. Fortunately, the minor arcana does not have astrological associations on the cards themselves. So if I want to, I can bring my own astrological associations to these cards, right? The major arcana, however, do have astrological associations printed on the card, which are different from my own astrological associations. For example, here we've got Sagittarius. Now, I know that this is based on the Chaldean system, and I know that the Golden Dawn uses these associations as well. For me, I prefer going back to the Sefer Yezerat and using the numerical order that comes out of that, so that instead of Aleph being on the Fool, that Aleph is on the Magician, and so the association to Aleph, according to the Sefer Yezerat, is the one that I would associate with that card. And I would associate the Fool with probably Tau, which is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and go with the associations with that. However, when I use this deck, I'll use the one printed on the card, yeah, because it's printed on the card. And I want to follow the deck that I'm using, or use a different deck. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's look at the cards. This is what the backs of the cards look like, just like the bag that we get with the deck, right? And this is the fifth element, or the 5-element deck. We can think of each one of these little boxes as being one of the 4, fire, water, air, earth, for example, and then this box being the 5th element, ether. That's explained in the card. I love this purple. I love the yellow on the backs of these cards. I love the yellowish gold edging that was given to us on these cards. It's not sharp. You can't feel it too strongly if you have sensitive fingertips and you don't like gilded edges or gold edges. Because of that, this deck does not have that problem. Okay? The cardstock itself, okay, this is my only, okay, I have two things about this deck that are not my favorite. One is the binding on the guidebook. The second is the cardstock. It's actually not the cardstock itself, it's the coating on the cardstock. Because while this is a matte coated cardstock, a very durable cardstock, I will say, yeah, it's very bendy, it riffle shuffles very, very well. Let me show you. Let me give you an example of a riffle shuffle with this deck. Now, these are not all of the cards. I have some cards set aside. But if you riffle shuffle this deck, look at this. It's wonderful. It's a dream. Bridging it, it's wonderful. It's a dream. However, when I go to overhand shuffle, yeah, they do clump a little bit, and they have loosened up quite a bit. But it took a long time just to get this, be able to get this good of a overhand shuffle for this deck. Now, okay, that actually what felt pretty good. And this is the universe conspiring against me. Until the last time that I used this deck, these cards were sticking together pretty well. But suddenly, they have decided to release their bonds to each other, and the overhand shuffle has improved. So, when I first got the deck, it was frustrating doing an overhand shuffle. And I've never tried that, shuffling powder that some people use. I've never tried that, and I didn't want to think of buying that. And over time, as you can see, the overhand shuffle has improved. I mean, when I first got the deck, it was just clumpy. Much better now. So if you decide to get the deck, allow it some time to be able to overhand shuffle, but keep trying at it and keep riffle shuffling the deck helps to loosen it up, I think. The cardstock, again, is wonderful. I've used it for quite a while, and I see no signs of wear on the deck, which is wonderful. The backs, I think, are wonderful. I love the design. I love the simplicity. If you read with reversals, and that's important to you, the back is reversible. You can't really see whether it's upright or not from the back of the cards. The size. Let me show you the size. They're big. Yeah, compared to a US, now this is not a US Games card. This is a card printed by Make Playing Cards. It is my oldest version of the CS Tarot by Conrad Stain. But it is the size of a standard US Games deck, and you can see it is much wider. It's a little bit taller. It's about the size of some Oracle decks. So it's on the big side. But I like that. I mean, for me, I have big hands, you know that probably. But because the art is so beautiful, I like having large cards. Yes, where are we going now? We are going to the... Just a moment. Artwork. Yeah, the artwork on the cards, I think, is lovely. Let me show you some of the cards, yeah? So here is the Seven of Shells. Shells, you can see it's water. You can see the blue around the card. The inside border, yeah, it's blue. It's easy to tell that this is water. Even if you're not sure, well, are shells earth or water? You can tell by the color, right? No problems. Five of Fire. Fire is fire, red color. Love this image. Yeah, see those flames shooting out from the sun? Very powerful, right? The sun and the moon are far enough away that they're not clearly being damaged by this fire, but the sun itself is very powerfully fire. Hot. Producing heat, right? Now for me, this is not the Golden Dawn Association. This is my association, yeah? So for me, 1 to 3 are Aries. Ace through 3 are Aries. 4, 5, and 6 are Leo. So this would be, the 5 would be the second decanate of Leo. And for me, the second decanate of Leo would be the Sagittarius decanate of Leo. So we've got the mutable aspect of fixed fire in this card. And I can kind of see, for me, that feeling from this image. Yeah, there's that fixedness of the fire of the sun, but there's that reaching out and ready to move to the next thing with that mutable aspect here. So I can see some of those aspects the way I associate astrology to the tarot cards. Here we got a major arcana. We can see that justice is associated with air. Now this card is associated with Libra in most decks. It's not my association, but that's how I would read this card. Lovely, right? We've got the Fibonacci, the graphic image of the Fibonacci ratio, right? What is it? Is it the golden ratio? Yeah. We've got 2 crystals here being balanced by the justice figure. We've got the feather reminding us of the feather of Maat, right? From the Egyptian associations with this card, with the balancing of the heart and the feather, right? We've got that here. We've got this cosmic image in the background for the breadth of, maybe if you're into associating karma with this card, you can associate karma with this card if you want. Yeah, there's a depth of the image, and that depth is unpacked beautifully by the guidebook. Here we've got the 7 of feathers. Feathers, air, yellow, air. Here's yellow, air around the Libra image for the justice card. There's another fire card. Lovely. Lovely stones with the fire contained within it. Apprentice of fire. Now, okay, apprentice. The deck uses different court cards, right? Instead of having a page, a knight, a king, and a queen, which are very patriarchal and also feudal, the author and creator of this deck wanted to bring this into our time and our societies and neutralize the gendering of these court cards. And so what do we have? We have the courts of, Let me read them out for you. The courts are, instead of the page, we have the seeker, which makes sense, right? Instead of the knight, we have the initiate. The initiate. So first you seek something and then you are initiated into something, right? And then after the initiate, we have for the queen, the apprentice. Now remember, it's not gendered. It's not girls are not good enough to be kings. This is the apprentice, which is neither male nor female. It's the next step after being an initiate. Now you're an apprentice. You're getting closer. And then the last card of the courts, instead of the king, we have what is called an elementor. Elementor. And let me see if I can find an elementor for us. So I can show you the word. Let's see. Oh, I've got one here on the side. Let me get out my elementor of air. Right here on the side. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's an elementor of fire. Right here. Okay, so this is the elementor of fire. Can you see the title? The way they created this word was to put together the word element, E-L-E-M-E-N-T, and the word mentor, M-E-N-T-O-R. 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 So, element, mentor, elementor. So after being a seeker, an initiate, then an apprentice, now you are a mentor of the element or an elementor, which I think is clever. But it's smart and it's unique. So yes. Let me see if I can find, let's see, I showed you fire, I showed you air, I showed you a court card. Look at this star card. Isn't that phenomenal? It's just beautiful. Look at the water flowing. I like that it is non-gendered. It's not, yeah. I love the Merkaba star here being held between these hands above the water, and then these Merkaba stars above it. We still have that same number of stars that we usually see in the star card, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the big one. And we don't have an ibis on the side. We don't have a bird flying around or on a tree. We don't have somebody kneeling in water. But we do have water flowing out onto the earth, which is being held up by the hands of either the divine or our hands, right? It's just a lovely concept for this card, I think. And we had here the association with Aquarius, so that's fine, right? Here's a Lotus. This is the Aether card. Now, I didn't point this out before, but on the minor arcana, below the name of the card, 7 of Lotus, just like in a Thoth deck, there is a title. So this is Divine Blueprint. And we can make things from that title or keyword for the card, right? Here's the 10 of Shells. Unconditional love. We can run with that concept, which is also wonderful. So if you don't want to use the guidebook, you don't have to use the guidebook. But like I said, I am addicted to that guidebook. And it is almost an addiction when using this card for me. 1 of Lotus, expansion. What haven't we seen yet? So instead of the Devil card, we have Shadow. Lovely image, right? Beautiful image. And let's see, fire, we saw fire cards. The 10 of Lotus, yeah, enlightenment. This, what is this? This is the seed of life, I believe, right? Or is this the flower of life? This is the flower of life, right? This is the flower of life. The seed of life has fewer circles on it. Just so deep. So I won't go through more of these cards like this, but I think the art is lovely. The technique of creating these cards is lovely. I can't do anything but gush over this deck. I love this lovely deck, except, okay, there are 2 cards in the whole deck, only 2, that were a little bit problematic for me. Yeah? And the first one is this one, the Nine of Stones. Right? It's called fulfillment, which makes sense. This is the Nine of Pentacles, the Nine of Coins, fulfillment. Usually we see what? We see on the Smith-Waite deck a woman standing in her garden with her hawk on her finger. We've got grapes here too. There are grapes on the vines. She's dressed elegantly. She's got wealth. She's got property. She's got comfort. Fulfillment, physical fulfillment makes absolute sense. When I see this image, except for maybe the grapes in the background and maybe the flowers in the front, I love the malachite here, but it doesn't speak fulfillment to me. It feels, there's a kind, to me in this image, there's a kind of flatness here, or I don't know, I see calendar here with the way that the stones are arranged in a circle. I don't see that fulfillment quality that I get from other decks in the Nine of, again, Pentacles or Coins or whatever you want to call them. Now, this Elementor of Fire. Now, artwork, I love the artwork. I love the symbols there, but it just doesn't speak Nine of Earth to me. The Elementor of Fire, which would be the King of Wands in other decks, yeah? The Elementor of Fire. When I look at this card and I look at the book, this does not look like somebody who is the mentor of that element to me. It almost, I don't know, it looks more like an initiate. It reminds me of a phoenix. It reminds me of the phoenix that burns and rises, right? I know it isn't a bird. I know it isn't something rising from the flame, but it reminds me of either a phoenix or it reminds me of the character on the Fantastic Four, the guy, the Human Torch. Yeah, so part of me wants to giggle a little bit when I see this card because I think of the Human Torch. Part of me wants to think this doesn't feel like an Elementor, the one who is in charge of the element or shows the element. It looks like someone who's consumed by the element. Does that make sense? So, I don't know. Those two cards are the only two cards that I sometimes stumble over. But the rest of the deck, like I said, is phenomenal. And if there are only two cards in a deck that I have a little bit of a problem with and I stumble over, that is excellent, right? So here are some of the cards that I particularly love. And maybe you know why I love this one so much. No, it's not because there's a naked guy on the card, although that is interesting. I like the guy on the card, of course, but that's not the reason I love the card. I love the card because we've got these DNA strands here. We've got that idea. We've got this guy hanging in the universe, right? Attached to the earth, but hanging in the universe, open to everything that's there. Open to the cosmos. It's it's probably one of the most expansive images of my favorite card in the deck that I have seen in a long time, if ever. So I love this card. I love that the two strands of DNA have that yin-yang, in Korean, yang, two different colors aspect to it. So we can choose one of them as being the more masculine, one of them being the more feminine, joined together in this union, which is how I see the Hanged Man instead of here. It's the Cosmic Man myself. So I love this card. I really, really love this card. I feel seen by this card, if you will. And I don't use that lightly. I really do feel seen by this card. The other one I like is this Ace of Wands, or this One of Fire, which is creativity. But you notice this snake, which reminds me of Kundalini energy rising. The snake has not risen yet. It's about to rise. If we give it the space, it will rise with its fire, with that energy. It's not completed yet, but it's ready there. And that's exactly how I see the Ace of Fire or the Ace of Wands, right? It's that energy. It's ready to burst forward. It's there. The seed is there. And I love that red snake. The choice of the red snake is, I think, perfect for this card. I love the Elementor of Lotus. This is probably the perfection of the entire deck. This is the one, the enlightened one, right? And we see this face or head which is not entirely human anymore, and it is disembodied. In other words, it has risen or expanded beyond the need for body form, and it's here above a lotus with the pearl in the center. It's radiating energy. It is dripping symbols from its very hair. It really does feel like, and its eyes are both closed and open at the same time. You could almost see that there's an eye shining through the lid. I think it's just a perfect description of what you might want to see for the master of spirit, right? Love the color being purple of the being there. Just phenomenal. And is the being male, masculine? Is the being female, feminine? Who knows? It doesn't matter. It's all. It's everything. Right? I love this next card. Yeah? This next card, which is the shaman. Instead of having a high priest or a pope or a hierophant, we have the shaman. And it's a masculine figure to me. I'm sorry, not masculine. It's a male figure, a male presenting figure with nice biceps. Got to say that. Very attractive figure. But this figure here sitting with the pipe, right, with herbs, with a bowl of incense, is not alone. Right? We see ancestors there behind, speaking to, informing, supporting the figure of the shaman. And we still got the Taurus association here, being very, very Golden Dawn, but still, I love this, the trees in the background, this nature, the shaman sitting there in meditation or in a meditative, possibly meditative pose. Maybe the shaman is saging, cleansing with air, with smoke, with feather. It's all beautifully done. The next card I thought was absolutely stunning was the Hermit card. Yeah, you can see this hermit in a cave looking out over water with the moon above. Their staff is glowing. This is actually a fairly masculine presenting figure. We got a beard, but a male presenting figure. But look at this cave. Look how open it is. And do you see the animals here? We see that the cave, or maybe it's a root system. You choose. But they look like stalactites and stalagmites to me. One is an owl. One looks like an elephant. Right? The earth and the creatures of the earth are there protecting and informing the hermit. They're seeking, understanding, finding revelation. I love that. I love that. The next card, I love this Lovers card. Yeah? A very cisgendered, very heterosexual couple. But notice some things. We've got these two creatures here, kind of like the two children in the Lover card for the Thoth deck. Yeah, instead of two children, we've got two creatures here, two four-legged creatures, probably panthers or jaguars, and we can choose: is this one the female? Is this one the male? Our choice. Yeah. Notice the 3 levels here of radiant stones or radiant pearls. Yeah. Body, mind, spirit, maybe. We've got the stars, meteors circling the scene. It's just such a lovely card and rich in image. We got the twin crystals here joined together but separate, in union and still individual. It's just fabulous. And we've got these twin flames here meeting each other. So much information in each of the images, and so beautiful. Now, this might be me. Let me see, is this me? Yeah, that was me. See, I've used this deck quite a bit, and I have not cleaned the cards very well, but you can see that the cards clean themselves. And do you see any glare on these cards? I've got really funky lighting going on right now. There's very funky lighting in this room, but still there's no glare on the cards. Just phenomenal. The Fool card. So, yes, that path here. We've also got the Rainbow Bridge, right? We got that circle with the ribbons that we were talking about. We've got butterflies. Butterflies on many Fool cards. We've got the idea of descent both from the heavens, but also being on the beginning of a path in the earthly physical plane. Beautiful card. Full of joy. Now, instead of the Page of Swords, we have the Seeker of Feathers, and I love this card. I love the spirit, what is this, an eagle, probably, supporting this male-looking figure, dancing out by himself, holding tools, dressed for invocational dance and prayer dances of gratitude or thanksgiving, of mind drawing in spirit and mind communing with spirit and being with spirit, but the beginner on the path, right? Just a lovely image and a lovely description of the card. Alchemy, I love this. We got the sacred symbols, the sacred, what is it? The Platonic, the Platonic shapes right here between the two cups, the gold and the silver, the sun and the moon, with water flowing between them. We've got the spear of Sagittarius, which is great. It's great. It's clear. The card is telling you what it is telling us, right? It's very clear. Interestingly, we got fire down here under the moon, which would usually be a water symbol. So we got fire and water. Might have been interesting to have a little bit of water up here with the sun, but we got the sun and the moon here in kind of a reminiscent image of the yin yang, yang. Just fabulous. Just fabulous. Night and day together, harmonizing, merging into one greater whole. I just love that idea. I love this Emperor card. I've got to say, I just love this Emperor card. Not only because of the Emperor on the card itself, which is gorgeous, but also the children standing behind the Emperor, right? The son of the sunflowers, right? We've got Mars here for Aries, I think. Now we've got, I think, the stars for Aries. We've got the horns for Aries. But instead of the Emperor being the harsh dictator, we have the Emperor being the protective father, right? These children are not afraid of the big father figure. They are sheltering themselves in the cloak of the great father, which I think is just a stunning remembering of the potential for the Emperor card for most of us. Many of us resist this card, I know, and I think this image helps to relieve some of that resistance. And then the last card I'm going to show you is the Two of Lotus, which is empathy. And I love this lemniscate here. I love these. Do you see the two hearts here? There's the green heart, and then there's the pink heart. And when we think of the heart chakra, do you ever think of the heart chakra? Two colors are often associated with the heart chakra, the green and the pink. So rose quartz and maybe ametrine would be crystals for that. Yeah? So we got these two hearts joined, really joined together in this Two of Lotus card. The lotuses are pointing in different directions, and the idea is these hearts combined and intertwined creates empathy. I love that for this card. I love that. Okay, friends, I had really thought that this was going to be a short video, and it looks like it is not going to be a short video. So, the next thing I would like to do is show you how it reads. And when I do that for some decks, what I do is I show you my deck interview for that deck. Sometimes I'll do a live reading, but for this deck, it really, like I said, I'm addicted to the book. So instead of doing a live reading, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the deck interview I did with this deck. So first I will show you the image, and then I will show you the cards, and I can't show you all of the spread right here on deck, but I will put an insert into the video so you can see as we talk about each one of the cards. God, I hope that makes sense. So first, let me show you the spread right now. Here it is. Friends, that was the interview spread I did with this deck, and I did that pretty early on in my use of the deck, and the more I used the deck, the more I realized how accurate I think that interview spread was for me. Yeah? So you saw at the top, we had what card? We had the realization card, which is the judgment card in other decks. Yeah? Then we had the 3 of shells. Well, okay, you're seeing this spread here on the screen in miniature, right? So the first card at the very top in the center is answering the question, who are you? Who are you deck that I am using now? Yeah? The card in the right below and to the left is the card for what are your strengths? The card opposite on the upper right is the card for what are your weaknesses. So that's card 3. And we move down to the lower left for what are you here to teach me? And then we move over to the lower right for what are the blessings that I can receive from you? And then we move into the very bottom with how can I best work with you? And then the central card is what is the probable outcome of our interaction? Yeah? So you see the cards that we got there, right? So the first card, top center, who are you, was this card. Yeah? Realization. And when I first pulled this card, again, this is a long time ago, when I first pulled this card, I thought, God, that makes so much sense. This is a card about awakening, about realization. Now, I've heard some people complain about this deck, saying that, oh, this card is all, it's all light-washing our experiences. And I strongly disagree. I disagree with that. So would I use this deck for shadow work, for example? Would I use this deck if I'm looking to find out what my problem is or what I'm doing wrong? No, I would not use this deck for that. But frankly, I don't like looking for those things. I don't want to look for what's going wrong or how I am bad or how I am wrong. What I want to do is find out what I can do to improve myself, what I can do to improve a situation, what direction do I want to move my attention or my energy towards. Instead of trying to scold myself or berate myself for the things that are not happening right, or the world for things that are not going right, or the other for not doing what I want them to do. I want to find the path forward, especially if I'm going to do a more spiritual deep dive into my present situation or what I am seeing or the things I'm thinking about. So I find this deck wonderful, and yes, this deck reveals. It is a revelation. Now let me show you what these wonderful cards. You have the eye of the snake here, which is also, we've got an eye here in the mouth of a snake. So there's the mouth of speaking, of talking. We have the eye of seeing. We have the three figures, the father figure, the mother figure, the child figure, rising up. And from the book, what do we get? We have discernment to recognize the true from the false. That's what this deck is about. It's awakening to our spiritual path. Definitely what this deck is about. Movements of enlightenment make the path forward clearer. This deck is helping us to move forward with more clarity. It's to help us find inner and outer peace and allowing us to make decisions, and those decisions can flow through us through a fully realized channel instead of through a channel blocked with fears and trepidation or with self-loathing and imposter syndrome and negativity, right? This card is also indicating that the deck is the divine bestowing wisdom and blessings upon us who are seeking a path of truth and enlightenment. That's really what this deck is about. And I think this card really strongly represents my experience with this deck. Now, the strengths of this card are very emotional, right? There's a lot of emotion in this deck. So that's why we got this three of shells. We got the three shells. We got the three dolphins leaping into the air with joy and having fun. We got three sets of three stones on the earth. So there's a grounded aspect to this card as well. Where's my pointer? So yeah, we've got the three conch shells. And the guidebook points to this as being rejoicing and celebrating to the fullest. That's what this deck wants to do. It wants to give us abundance and joy through spiritual healing. Now, the spiritual healing aspect of this deck is very strong. And also being playful. We don't want to take this thing too seriously. We want to enjoy and have fun on our path of healing and our spiritual development. And teaching us to laugh more. That's what this card is about, and that really is the strength of this deck, I believe. Now, even a deck this strong and this joyful and this opening and revelatory will have some weaknesses. And it was really interesting when this came out as a weakness. And that was the elementer of earth. And of feathers. Now we see this tree bending in the wind. Have you ever seen trees growing on the coast? Have you ever seen... So I'm thinking of San Francisco. There's a place called Ocean Beach, and there's a really strong wind that comes off the land out into the ocean in that area. And a lot of the trees grow in the direction of that wind. And so that's what I think of when I see this. I think of Ocean Beach in California, although that's not what this image is, but still, that's what I think of when I see this. So what is the weakness? This is the elementer of feathers, which would be the king of swords in other decks, which you might think, why is that a weakness for this deck? Well, for this deck, the elementor of feathers is relating information without interpretation. Very cold, cold. In the best sense of the word, cold, rational explanations. That's not what this deck is all about. Yeah? Information without perspective or emotion. That's not what this deck is about. The knowledge to assist with decisions. Yeah, you know what? I don't think this deck really helped me make decisions. It helped me inform me about the present, but the responsibility for deciding was still upon me or upon the seeker. Bending with the wind. Yeah, I don't think this deck bends with the wind very much. It bends, but not with the wind. It bends in flexibility, but it doesn't bend and contort itself like this tree is bending and contorting itself, right? It will bend, but it will come back to its center. It will bend and then it will come back to its center. Does that make sense? So these are some of the weaknesses of this deck. Now, what is it here to teach me? When this card came out, I thought, man, what could be a better card? The Initiate of Lotus. So it's not the Seeker, it's not the page, this is the Knight of Lotus. If this were in the patriarchal, feudal court system, this would be the Knight, right? But it's the Initiate. No, wait a second. Wait a second. I might be wrong. Just a second. Now, I see, I sometimes still get confused. I know Seeker, I know Elementor, but sometimes I get confused. Right, yeah, it's Apprentice and then it's Initiate, then Apprentice. Right, okay. So, yes, this would be the Knight. But notice the feet of this being could be male, could be female. They look a little female to me. This kind of reminds me of the hugging saint for some reason. The woman in India who is a yogi, a very popular yogi, and she is called the hugging saint because she hugs everyone. And for some reason, I see this and I think of her. I've not met her personally, but I think of her. With the feet on the lotus pad, we've got a lotus flower between her feet, we've got the beads, the prayer beads around her ankles. She's floating on a sea of the infinite with lotuses around her. Beautiful card. And this card is about receiving the blessings of unconditional love. That's what this deck is here to teach me. To receive the blessings of unconditional love. It's here to teach me to surrender ego and trust in the eternal nature of self. It's here to teach us the greatness through humility. To become great by being humble, the last being the first, right? Or the first being the last, I'm sorry. The first being the last. Greatness through humility. Being of service through the divine and to the divine in others. Because the divine is in everyone, right? Being of service to that divine in others. Unconditional love through compassion. That's what this deck is here to teach me and maybe many of us. Now, what blessing can I receive from the deck? And this card came out, which made perfect sense. Gentleness. And we see a stingray here, or a manta ray, swimming between algae with four shells, right, for the 4 cups. So what is this card pointing towards? It's pointing towards gentleness towards self and others. That's the blessing I can receive. Totally in alignment with this. With this initiative Lotus, right? Unconditional love through compassion, and here we have the 4 shells, gentleness towards self and others, releasing prickly aspects of the ego that disrupt harmony. Now releasing those parts of our egos. Now it's not saying destroy the ego, but release the parts of the ego that are disruptive to us and to others. Right? Which includes the humility here and being of service to the divine in others here, right? Finding ways to return to emotional balance. These two linked together are powerful, I think, and they echo each other beautifully. Now, how can we best work with this deck, or I can work with this deck? Another water card, right? The Seeker of Shells. This would be the Page of Cups, returning to the innocence of youth, right? Tasting the emotional richness coming to me from the shell that I'm holding in my little mermaid body, with my tail in the water, in the moonlight. Beautiful card. Now, is this a rock? Is this a creature? I don't know. But here we are sitting on this platform with our tails in the water, holding a shell to our lips to drink from, tasting the emotional richness coming to us, choosing to drink in the abundance of love and beauty, getting in touch with the feminine side, feel the beauty and sensuous aspects of love and life, just like a water creature, a water being would feel perhaps. Following our intuition, connected with the ocean, right? Intuition, to find answers. This will help us to discover our path. And we can see a path being shown to us with the moonlight. Taking time to sit in quiet reflection. That's the best way to work with this deck. And I found that to be very true, very accurate. And then what is the probable outcome of our interaction? Now this surprised me a little bit, and it sent me a little bit off when it first came out, the 9 of Feathers. But then I saw higher intellect and I thought, okay, so what? I'm going to get smarter? And here we see some sacred geometry, right? Looking a little bit like the seed of life. Oh, yeah. With triangles here. We have the 9 feathers. Now, if we think of this as the 9 of swords, what do we think of? We think of anxiety and worries and nightmares. And the 9 of swords for me is what? Okay, so it would be it's mutable air, which would be the 9. Okay, so it would be Gemini, right? Yes. No. Yes. Cardinal air is Libra. Fixed air is Aquarius. Mutable air is Gemini. So this would be the Aquarius. I'm sorry. I'm moving this around because I'm pointing to parts of the zodiacal chart as I'm trying to arrange the information, which is why I like the system that I have landed on for matching astrology to the cards, because I can work it out in my head. I can calculate it in my head. So then for me, the 9 of feathers would be the Aquarius decanate of Gemini, which is the cardinal, which is the fixed aspect of mutable air. The fixed aspect of mutable air. So we have that forward-thinking, progressive aspect of Gemini, which is like all over the place, but creative, mentally creative, divergent, and scattered, but able to see a lot of stuff. But Aquarius together can progress from there, right? So what does this mean according to this deck? Now, again, that's not the Golden Dawn association to this card. This is my association, and I can do that because the association is not printed on the card, okay? Okay, so for me, this is associated with that. So what does it mean? Committing to projects we have started to finish them. Yeah, that fixed aspect gets the starter Gemini to commit to what it's going to do. I'm sorry. So Gemini is mutable, right? So the fixed aspect is the one who tells Gemini, who is a little all over the place and might not be able to stick to what it's thinking of doing, continues wanting to move on to the next thing. The fixed aspect of Aquarius gets Gemini to complete what it's going to do. Does that make sense? Clearing lower states of consciousness and getting in touch with the wisdom of the higher intellect. So it's not making you smarter, it's rather allowing you to accomplish what your mind has set out to do and get in touch with the wisdom that is already existent within. Right? Keen vision from our own higher consciousness and the divine. So we were able to see farther, seek more clearly with this card. Seeing oneness, in fact. Seeing that all is sacred. You see the radiant light around this sacred seed here. And seeing the greater picture and using our gifts to be of service. And remember, we were supposed to be of service with the card for this deck is here to teach us. We're being of service. And this card here, the result is being able to see our gifts to be of service. Can you feel how all of these are interwoven within this one interview spread? Does that make sense to you? There's a depth and a breadth and a continuity of information using the guidebook and the cards that just blossoms from every spread that I've done with this deck. And I think it's just wonderful. It's fabulous. So what do I think about this deck? Who is it best for? Is it beginner friendly? Because the guidebook is so rich and full, I would say yes. However, personally, as a teacher of tarot, I would say that If you start with this deck, you're maybe not going to have an easy time reading a lot of other different decks. So if you choose this deck, and as a beginner you want to start with this deck, and you're ready to then restart when you go to perhaps a Smithwaite or a Thoth system, knowing that there are not many other decks in the world that are very much like this. So if you want to get another deck, you might need to delve into a different way of thinking about the cards. It's okay. But for me, I would suggest that this deck is much more for the one who is used to and comfortable with a system, for example, either Tarot de Marseille or the Smithwaite or the Thoth, and is ready to expand a little bit. Does that make sense? I'm not going to say intermediate or advanced, but someone who is comfortable and settled within one system and is ready to expand, that's who this deck is for. It's for readings about deep, soulful, spiritual, expansive information. Is my husband cheating on me? I would not pull out this deck for that kind of a question, if that makes sense. Is how am I going to get my promotion at work? Is not the deck. I would not pull out this deck. Right? Now, how can I become a better employee at work so that I can get a promotion? That's the deck. This is the deck I would pull out for that, because then we're looking to expand ourselves and to move forward on our path of evolution. Right? So path of evolution questions, I think, are the best for this kind of a deck. And my experience with this deck has been phenomenal. And each spread I lay has asked me to sit with it and return to it over and over and over again. And every time I return to it, it blossoms a little bit more, if that makes sense. I highly recommend this deck if you're ready for it. And I hope that you will be ready for it, because it's beautiful. It's amazing. It's wonderful. Yes, 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 yes. And before I leave you, I'd like to ask you, do you have this deck? Have you used this deck? What do you think of it, if you have used it? What do you think of it after having seen it here with me and my rambling about this deck and gushing over it? What do you think about the deck now? If you've used it, how do you feel about your connection to it? Do you see other things in this deck that I have not seen? I'd love to hear about that. And also, if you're into tarot reviews like this, things that are in depth and not just first impressions, if you want to see me using different decks, if you'd want to recommend a deck for me to use and then present here and present a deep dive about that deck, let me know in the comments below. I'm open to any of your suggestions. And my hope is that this will be more of a monthly video, but the last few months have been, if you know me, wild and crazy, like the Toad ride in Disneyland. Anyways, it's been a wild and crazy few months, and now I'm starting to settle back into my life. And so I hopefully will be able to return to maybe a monthly video of like this. Again, if you want to suggest a deck, let me know in the comments below. If you want a reading from me, my information about my online tarot reading shop will come at the end of this video. You can ask for a specific deck. You can ask me to do a reading with this deck if you want, or another deck. And if you just want to tell me you love this video, or you want to complain that you want me to do this a different way, let me know in the comments below. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.